All right, so I put together a little slide presentation to look at Google Cloud Storage, and then, but before we jump in on that, Daniel is like, "Oh man, you should totally check this out." And so I figured it's worth mentioning. And there's this repo on GitHub, which is all that's awesome about Go. And this was built because apparently there's something called Awesome Python. Anybody know about that? Awesome Python, and so it was inspired by Awesome PHP, which is inspired by Awesome CGI, Awesome Perl, Awesome, Fortran. So here's Awesome Go, and it's a curated list of Awesome Go frameworks and libraries. So just FYI, good to know about, right? But you can come in here and look at the awesome frameworks that people have deemed awesome. Kind of nice. So Google Cloud Storage. So which way? This was like the big question. There's like a way that you could do P12 and then convert that to a PIM, and that's no. That's like the old way, okay? And just to look at like the file on that. So we are at products, documentation, App Engine, Go. And we're down here at storing data and Google Cloud Storage Client Library getting started. Right, so that seems like, there's the data store, there's Cloud SQL, this is GCS, Google Cloud Storage, and then here's getting started, and they are recommending right down here that, and so you think that's pretty legit, right? But convert the private key to a PIM. So this is where it's confusing, right? Because it's like, well, this is the App Engine documentation. They're saying give me a PIM file. Convert the key to a PIM. But you have to go generate a service account credential and download a private key first. All right, well, let's go generate a service account credential and download a private key. So I come over here, and it takes me to service account credentials and basically says go to Google Developers Console. So I go to Google Developers Console, and then I'm going to go into my learning and continue. And I come down in here, and basically I'm in API Manager, right? And I come down here to credentials. And then here are my credentials, and I might be showing something I shouldn't be showing, but whatever. It's trial count.
I think those are fingerprints, so
Doesn't matter.
They're just an ID. They're just
okay, cool.
They're like a hash, so they don't care matter too much.
And then here I could generate API key auth to or service count. Oh, cool! I was told to generate a service count, so I generate a service count, and it says P12 for backward compatibility or JSON recommended. Well, if you download the JSON, because that's pretty much what the instruction said, right? Like come here and get your key and then convert it to a PIM. If you download a JSON, I don't know how the hell you convert a JSON into a PIM. And so like point of confusion number one, and this is the way you do want to do it with JSON, but if you're doing it the old way, you download the P12. You get the P12 and you convert that to a PIM, right? That's the old way. And when you come back and you look at the instructions, that's even what the instructions show you right here. We're done with that page. But the instructions right here, like how do you convert to a PIM? You follow these instructions, and these instructions right here are like basically take your P12 and turn it into a PIM, right? And so the instructions are saying go get a P12 and a PIM, go get a P12 and turn it into a PIM. And when you go look at like, okay, I want to get my P12, what happened to my developer? You get here and they say don't do a P12. It's like, all right, well, how do I do a JSON, right? So that's just like confusing. And then, so, you could do one with AE deploy, right, which you do want to do. So you maybe you look around a little bit more, right? Maybe one of the things that you do when you're looking around is you say, okay, I want to go and look at Google Cloud. I'm going to start right at the front, Google Cloud. And this is like, the main page for everything about cloud. And you bang around for a while in here, and you finally end up at documentation. And you go to Go, and you're like, sweet, this looks totally modern. This must be new. It's all, what do they call this? It's all not polymer. It's shiny. It's, what do they call this? Material. It's all material design. This has got to be the way to do it. And they have some new examples. I'm totally excited. I give this 5 stars. It looks like they've put together something totally cool. There's a build a bookshelf app. I go through the hello world, build a bookshelf. We're no longer using Go App Serve. We're using AE deploy. We're not doing Go App deploy. We come in and we look at Google Cloud Storage, right? And it says install the Cloud SDK, enable APIs, and then when it comes time to deploy, right? It wants me to do this stuff, right? Okay, so a whole other way of deploying. I got to learn all this App Engine deploy. And once I've done all of that, I realize I am no longer running on App Engine. I'm running on a virtual machine, right? And a virtual machine is something that exists right between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And so they have virtual machines. And there's a really good image that shows this. It is in this tutorial right here, right here. It's in this tutorial right here. And let me see, maybe it's right on this one. Sorry, I'm just going to dig in here for a second, see if I can't find it. That's the one I wanted. La, 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 la. Okay, right there. No, that's not it. But that gives you a little bit of it. But it's a virtual machine. And do you guys want to see this image? Should I keep looking for it? Anyhow, it basically shows there's infrastructure as a service, which is
Compute engine.
Compute engine, and then there's App Engine, and then there's virtual machines, which are managed VMs. Because Compute Engine would be as pure. And managed VMs, you have some access to some of the App Engine services, but not all of them. So you're kind of this land right between. Give me your thoughts on it, because you did a lot of digging around on that. Or did we see everything already?
Most of it. So basically the managed VM gives you the entire machine, but it still restricts the hard drive because it's still managing the VM for you. So it may be adding and removing disks, virtual machine that's needed. So you don't want to save to the hard drive. But other than that, you get full control of the system. Google will update the system for you, make sure it's always with the latest patches and everything. So you don't have to worry about managing that. You just basically tell it, I want this, this, and this installed from app-get, and here's my app that I want running on it. And your app can be whatever you want. You can run C code if you want. Any program you want. You can say, here's my exe, run it. And it's got full access to the App Engine, well, near complete access to App Engine services as well, if you've got the App Engine libraries.
So there's some cool videos, which I ended up watching about all that. And so this video right here in particular, let me just make sure my volume's off, is called Containerizing the Cloud with Julia Ferrari. And that's where the video is. But this talks about that entire managed VMs. What do they call them? Managed VMs. There you go. So that kind of makes sense, right? It's not a virtual machine, which is just the compute and IaaS. It's not App Engine, which is PaaS. It's a managed VM, so it's got some management. They do some management of it for you. So the last way is, sorry, I just totally long tangent. Last way is JSON, and that's the most important thing, I think, because when you get here, it's like saying this is the recommended way. So how do we figure that out, right?
There's no docs on it.
Yeah, I don't know where, but here's the information I found. So package storage contains Google Cloud Storage Client. The package is experimental, may make backwards incompatible changes, and there's an example here where we're a path to a JSON file, right? And we get that, and IOG read file gives us a key, and then we where do we use that key? And then Google JW config right here, JSON key, and we pass that to this, and we get a config thing. And then once we get the config thing, we do this and gives us a cloud context. Sweet, that's what I need. I need a cloud context, right? So that's how you do the JSON method. And so that's one doc, and then here's the other doc that was interesting. And
so yeah, basically no official documentation. You just have to dig through their that GoDoc stuff, the per method stuff, because there's no nice page for you on the App Engine website that tells you how to use it.
Yeah, like
the recommended area, you'd think they would have docs on it.
Daniel and I were chatting over the weekend. This is like a hero moment for me. I'm like, I got JSON working. He's like, you got that working, question mark? I was like, yeah. I don't know, I felt like you were surprised.
Yeah, I was.
Cool, man, that's totally cool. I've earned a stripe. So here's that JWT if you just want to read about it. So those two links are right there. And then so back to Google Cloud Storage instead of just looking at what are the different ways. So this is a little bit about how cloud storage works, and you can read about it. It's pretty much just the thing from App Engine, and it talks about buckets. You have a bucket, which is basically like this is like a hard drive where I'm going to store stuff. And you put objects up there, which are whatever files you want to put up there, pictures, documents, whatever. And those files have permissions, access control lists, and then it just talks about the things you could do with it. And so this is a little bit about creating a bucket. And to create a bucket, you just go into your. I got way too many tabs open up here. I probably just close Developer Console. Close tabs to right. Google Developer Console. Wow. And I want to go into learning. And so I go down here to storage. And then here I just create a bucket. And so you could go through that entire thing of trying to get a free bucket, going into the old console. I say just create a bucket and pay the 5 cents or whatever if you get charged. And just monitor your billing. So you could go into billing and you could set a threshold, like notify me if I spend more than $3 each month. And it'll let you know that you're starting to spend money. Like I had one for some reason when I was experimenting with AE Deploy. Like I came back the next day and I had like 30,000 hits, and it charged me 6 cents. And I'm like, whoa, where are all these hits coming from, right? And then like they just kept counting up. So there's something in what I was doing with AE Deploy, and it just started like calling itself or something. I don't know. I didn't even take time to figure it out. It's just like shut that one off, right? 6 cents. I'm okay giving that to Google. They've been good to me.
So I think it's the appengine.google.com gives you the old console. If you want to dig through it, there's a button that will give you a free bucket in there, but it's like hidden at the bottom of one of the pages.
I've got mine limited so that if it pays more than $5, it just shuts off.
Yeah.
It's the way to go.
So go get Google Cloud Storage Client Library. So I don't remember if this is AE or everything, but here we are in Go and Google Cloud Storage and download and go get these, right, to be able to do this stuff. But your IDE should tell you that as you're working if you don't have them. All right, so setting up dev authorization, we just saw that. We saw the JSON P12. This is how you do it the P12 way, right? Write code for your app, and then so there's some code using P12. And you do a client and with transport, so that's an interesting piece to look at. And then you take your P12 and convert it to a PIM, and so that's a link which shows you how to convert to a PIM. And then once you've done that, you no longer use Go App Serve or Go App Deploy. Or no, sorry, Go App Deploy is fine because this is only for development when you're working at your machine. And instead of Go App Serve, you use this, and you change. Like here, you put in your app email address, which is from from here, API manager, credentials. It'd be like this, whichever one it was associated with, right? I got account 1, account 2, so I'd take that whole thing right there, and I would put it in right here, and then I'd put in my PIM file right here. So I need that flag, this flag right here, and then I put in this is the path to my PIM file. And this is the path to my App Engine SDK, right? And that file. So that's basically what I put in. Kind of a pain. So here's the JSON auth the new way, and this shows you like the example that I just showed you, which is really what unlocked it for me because I pretty much, by unlocked it I mean helped me figure it out and get it working, because pretty much just followed this example and then just looked at the documentation. And so first you write code for your app to work with Google Cloud Storage. And the first thing I did is because you need to have your JSON file in your working stuff as opposed to somewhere else on your computer. I added an XX JSON extension and added that to my gitignore file so that this doesn't get pushed up to GitHub, because I don't want everybody in the world to have access to it. So that's the first thing I did. And then the next thing I did is once I had that file in there, So there's my JSON file. You can see that, and then here's storage go, a new writer. We have that one right there with the PIM auth, and then this one with JSON auth, and then over here you read your JSON file, right? So it's basically the example that we saw in the documentation, and then you use JWT config from JSON. You get a config, you give it your JSON key, and then with oops, I'm trying to scroll the code down, and then with config client, right? We pass in App Engine context, and we get back HTTP client. Right, and then with cloud new context, we give it the App Engine context and HTTP client, and that gives us a cloud context. Both App Engine context and a cloud context are both type context.context, from package context, type context. Right, so one's a App Engine context, one's a cloud context, but we need a cloud context in order to do Google Cloud Storage stuff. So now you have a cloud context, which I call CCTX, right? This is just like we were looking at lines, through 40. Now we're just further down that file looking at lines 41. And here we do, we're handling a putting something up into the cloud. So we get the cloud context, right? And that was this function right here, get cloud context. We get the cloud context, and we get CCTX, which is the variable I use to, store the cloud context. And then we do a storage new writer, cloud context, and Google Cloud Storage Bucket, GCS bucket, is right here. It's just the name of my bucket, and that bucket is this right here. Right here, learning 1130 bucket 01, and buckets have to be named unique across all of Google App Engine. And so I just prefixed it with the name of my project ID. That seemed kind of weird to me, but I guess that's it, and it also totally makes sense, right? But
it's just like how App Engine IDs have to be unique.
Yeah.
So it's separate from App Engine, even though it's partially connected. So
I give it my bucket, and then I give it a file. So here's a file name that I'm going to store up there, and then I'm writing IO write string to that writer. I'm writing some information to that file, and then close writer, close my file, and if there's an error, catch the error. So that's basically it. And
note
then
that it breaks the closer interface there. It's not a closer interface which returns null. It actually returns an error because it's actually connecting and do the writing at the close. So you can't just use a defer close on it.
That's cool. I didn't notice that. And then here we have a go app serve. So we just use go app serve instead of this crazy thing that you had to do with the PIM auth way where you did it like this, right? We just do go app serve. That's pretty awesome to get that figured out. So that code is all right here, and so here is doing it the PIM way, and then here are both JSON ways, and that's everything we just looked at. That code is all right there, and then if we were to run this, we'd be able to put something up on cloud storage. And so, do you guys want to see that? In class with y'all, and we'll call this example y'all, and save it, and then I am in 5902.
Y'all, yet another. It's YAML, right? Yet another markup language. So what would y'all stand for? Yet another.
Stands for you all. It's y'all. So go app serve, and then what I have, I've got, basically just put. When I go to put, it's going to put my file up there. And so what I'm looking for is for some new file to show up here, and that file is going to be example y'all.
So once you go to the URL.
Yeah. Thanks for double checking me there. And the one I'm going to is put. But I wanted to show before. So it's just going to spin, right? But now that I come over here, and I think I just click there and then back here. Or is there a refresh button?
I don't know, it's taking a long time.
So there's example y'all. That's like victory. That's a victory moment.
So what I will notice is that all the types are application octet stream. So I believe there is a function you can call on the writer that'll let you set the type of the writer, of what you're writing, so you can set it to text plain, which is useful if you plan to use the serve your files off of cloud storage. Content type. Okay, so it's just a variable. So
And what do we set to?
Equals text or text plain. Same as HTML content type. Same as your HTTP content type.
Make sure that rebuilt. Oh no, should have.
Probably.
Refresh. Can I just refresh this? Refresh right there. Example, y'all still.
Yep, and there it's text plain.
Text plain.
And if you click on it, it won't download it this time. It will view it.
Nice. Nice. That's nice.
Application octet string basically means unknown content type in HTTP land.
All right, so that's a victory. And the last thing let's look at is the movie website. So we saw the search, so let's see it with images. And this is, again, a really nice example. This is Caleb code. And so the only thing I changed in here was in new movie. And you can see down here I left, this is the way you do it. This is the way it was done. Caleb wrote it, right? But then if you didn't upload a file, it was like, hey, I was wanting a file. You told me to get a file, and there's no file, so error, right? So I changed the code right here to basically be like, if poster is not equal to nil, then we have a file, right? And we do stuff with the file. And so that's basically allows you to not upload a file. So let's just see that in action, then we'll look at the code. And 60 and 02. Whoop, 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 whoop. So movie information, I don't know, search, anything in there? Nothing's in there. New movie, and Jaws, and a movie about a shark. And I don't need to upload a poster, I could just hit submit. And it shows me the ID that's associated with that. And the interesting thing about this example is Caleb just stored everything in search, right? He didn't store it also in the data store. And so that was kind of interesting. And I don't know if he's just like illustrating search or if this was actually production level code, if he would be like, let's put in the data store and then just have the stuff we want to have searched over in the search service, right? But he just stored it all in search, and that's where we're pulling it from. And so what are your thoughts on that, Daniel? Like if this was production, we'd want to have everything in the data store and then only the searchable stuff over in search, and we'd have that data redundancy?
I think you can skip the redundancy if needed. The thing I can think of would be, is it faster to access things by key in data store than it is through the search? I'm not sure.
Because, yeah, so the thing we're talking about here is storing data, right? We store in data store, but if we want to have stuff searchable, we stick it into search. And so he was only sticking stuff into search in this example. And I think I would put everything in the data store and then just have the searchable stuff sticking into search. So I'd have redundancy. Would you do that? Or would you just stick it in search?
I think I'd just stick it in search unless I needed ancestors. I don't think search allows for ancestors. So.
Yeah.
So if I was making a tweet, the Twitter clone again, and I wanted to make it searchable too, I'd have the redundancy because I need the ancestor query and I need it to be searchable.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Good comment.
So, in fact, I've heard that the data store is expensive, Google pricing wise.
Is it?
Comparatively.
Compared to like Amazon?
Yeah.
That sucks because we just learned all this.
So they do a lot of writes. When you actually write one thing, it's actually writing like once for the file and then twice for every index you've got. So that'll use up your free writes really, really fast. You can start chewing through the cost per write quickly. So
Well, cross that bridge when you get to it. Hopefully you built something that will attract venture funding or generate enough revenue to pay for it. Just waiting for that motorcycle to pass. Yeah, so that was I don't know what the heck we were just talking about, search versus data store. So put a movie there. So if I go back to home, right, and nothing really, but if I go to search and then Jaws, a movie about a shark. So the formatting's not the best here. So we could do another new movie, and we could do Jaws 2, and a movie about 2 sharks. And I'm adding Markdown in here, and so I could do like highlights include
either dash or star.
people being eaten.
Dash or star, either one.
What if I mix them?
I think it'll work.
More people being eaten. And yet, in case you didn't get enough, even more people being eaten. And then I could get a file. I am DB. I'm just going to show you this because Caleb showed it to us. And then when I tried to do it myself, I was stuck for a moment. I'm like, why is it not working? So I'm going to search for Jaws 2. There, that's the one I want. And if I, am I there? And if I want this, I can't right click. How do you get it? Inspect. I can right click right next to it. Where is it?
Well, you can click the inspect thing there.
Yeah, this is the quickest way right here. Is get that. Just come here. Okay, click on that. There it is. Open link in new tab.
There it is on mouse. That's.
So now I could right click that and save it.
All they did was they attached an event listener on mouse down, return false, which cancels the event.
I can't type. Keep hitting caps lock. Downloads, sweet. All right. So now I'm gonna choose a file. Jaws 2, and we can look at our data store. I guess maybe it's already refreshed. And submit. And then go to our search. And so you can see here Jaws 2, and again, funky highlighting. Movie about 2 sharks, and then some of the, and that's bold right there, and then these turned into bullets. So that's the markdown got turned into HTML. It added the image, pulled the image back out. If we look at the buckets, we hit refresh, we should have 3 images now, right? And it's got, we gave it a unique ID, so that, you know, if this was production, would you run a hash on that so people had the same file? But I guess then you're associating the file. Like that's what Dropbox does, right? So if 4 people upload the same thing, they only store it once, but then they have a check to see if like 3 people no longer want it. That one person who does want it still has access to it. They don't get rid of it until everybody's gotten rid of it.
Yeah.
But they only store the file once. They hash it and get that.
Yeah. You have to make sure you use a high-level hash too, because you don't want people who can spoof the hash value.
What's the one they use here? SHA-1. Would SHA-1 work?
I think SHA-256 might be better.
256. So why would you want to say that again, what you just said?
So you don't want to use something insecure like MD5, because MD5 has been broken. People know how to make files that will give a specific hash value. So they've got the original image, they can get its hash value, and they can make a new image and
stick it out there so people are seeing advertisements or
yeah,
punkster hacking. images as opposed to the image that was intended.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So you'd want to use one that's a hash that was cryptographically stored if you were doing that.
So all the code's here to do it. Just some of the highlights would be like,
The GitHub.
Yeah, so here's rendering Markdown and passing that over to GitHub. So GitHub API will take Markdown and turn it into HTML. And so the HTML is being passed in, and we're using,
Markdown, not HTML.
Sorry, Markdown's being passed in, and then we're returning a string, which will be HTML. And so we send this over to GitHub's API, and they take the Markdown, turn it into HTML, and give that back to us. If this was a production code, so that's only to illustrate sort of API again. If this is production code, you go to godoc.org, and you'd search for Markdown, and then you would use one of these packages. So you're not going off your server to convert it and taking that time and relying on somebody else, but you're doing it all on your server in your app. And so that's one of the highlights. Another one of the highlights is there's a type search.html, and that type exists in the search service on App Engine. And so it's a alias. It's a custom type, and the underlying type is a string. And so right here we're taking a string and we're converting it to type HTML from the search package. And what that basically does is in search, you will no longer then be searching, like if you search for strong, you're not looking at strong tags, getting those as results. You're only getting like strong where it was in the paragraph or in the heading, right? Does that make sense? So, because search you don't want to be searching tags. You just want to be searching content, not the HTML markup. So that's what that type does in the search package. So that's another one of the highlights. So we have the rendering Markdown, and then storing things in Google Cloud Storage is also good. Let me just find out. It seems like you got something you want to jump in.
Storage.go.
Yeah, storage.go. Here we go. And so here, I don't know what this is doing. That's not getting called anywhere. I think that could be taken out. But putting a file, get cloud context, and so get cloud context is the same up here. I modified it slightly from the example that we saw right here and here. Okay, and so the way that I wrote this function the first time was get cloud context took a request, right? And then with the request, I was able to get an App Engine context. Well, instead of passing in a request, over here in this code, I had context already. So I just passed App Engine context. So I just passed in the App Engine context and got rid of the request, right? So that's the way that's written. So getting the cloud context is one of the big pieces, and then putting the file right here is pretty straightforward.
Just the ACL.
Oh, ACL is also a good thing. So this is we got 2 minutes. So writer ACL and setting access control list rules. So that's totally worth looking at, and that is in writer package, and writer package is
writer's
storage
new
writer, storage new writer, and so it's in the storage, and that's this right here, and we could go to that. Thank you, and go to.
So while he's loading that, when he's drawing the HTML, he's using the template. He's converting it to template.html first, which templates basically said the template package normally escapes all your strings. You don't have cross-site scripting unless the string is of type template.html, in which case you're saying this is trusted HTML, which we trust GitHub, right?
With my life. An Octet cat? Are you kidding me? And so here are the ACL rules and roles and entities. And so an ACL rule is a struct. It has an entity, which is an ACL entity, and a role, which is an ACL role. So here's my ACL entity. Here's my ACL role. Those are those types. And my entity can be all users or all authenticated users. And then the role can be owner or reader. So you can see how we use that here is we said writer.acl. And if you just type in writer, right? So something that's a new writer, you have ACL, and you can see it takes a slice of ACL. So I guess maybe you could have additional rules, and an ACL rule is a struct, right? And so this is a slice of them. So I need a struct here, and then I could add more if I wanted. And I just basically have the entity and the role, and so the entity is just one of these.
Or one of those strings there, if you want to have just a specific person with this email.
Oh, awesome! I didn't catch that. And so then I put in here, and then I do. They can either only read it or do everything to it. Is that right?
Yep.
And so then I just say you're only a reader, or you could do whatever the heck you want to it. You're an owner.
Yep.
And so then I could set multiple rules here for different users or all users or whatever.
If you don't match any rules, it means no access.
That was awesome.
So with that, you're saying everyone can read from this, which is useful because you need everyone to be able to see the picture.
So some classes I feel like, because we're on the learning curve, the cutting edge, and we don't have a textbook, and kind of figuring this out as we go. Some classes are kind of suck, and some classes I feel like we totally killed it. I feel like we totally killed it today, and we got a lot of really cool stuff, covered a lot of ground. You got super good clarity on how to use this stuff, and you've got the full thing now, baby. You got it, baby. You got it, baby. You got the full thing, baby. You can store files. You can store data. You got schemaless NoSQL, right? You can search it. I mean, it's awesome. You got all the code samples. All you got to do is get those Lego building blocks and put them together and build something. I think it's cool. So I don't know what the heck we'll do Thursday. We're all out. I have to go watch some more videos and figure some more things out.
Probably remote. Probably log in with other services.
We'll see what comes in the videos that Caleb has, and I'll get some more stuff together for Thursday. See you guys.